Hey, thanks for coming and checking out my rug washing page. Today we have this beautifully handmade rug from Nepal. We call these Nepalese rugs. This rug just has some general soils. No pet stains or heavy oil soils or anything like that, which honestly is the best way to clean your rug. You don't want to let it get too dirty because then it starts to damage the fibers. So I'll do my best to walk you through the process. And what I've done so far is fully saturate the rug with water. And this creates a low resistance or lower surface tension. So that way when I come through with the equipment to clean it, like this scrubbing machine or a pressure cleaner or the squeegee, then we're not being aggressive or damaging the fibers. So then what I did after that was I put some soap on the rug. Now typically I like to use the shower feed on this machine, which is that big tank, and I apply the soap that way. But I was feeling a little froggy today and put some soap on first. I also have soap in the shower feed tank there, just as a backup, and for the future when I go down and clean the rug a couple more times. So I'm just gonna work the soap in with this machine, and I'll let it sit for a little while after I apply it and scrub it in. And then I'm going to come through and I'm going to squeegee the first application of soap out. And really what I'm doing is just kind of knocking down any of the heavy soils. As I do this process a couple more times, you'll start to see the deep embedded soils come out. Each time I clean it, I'm basically bringing more soil to the surface or more soil to the face of the fiber, and as the subsequent times that I rinse it and run the machine over and squeegee it, you'll see more dirt come out. So now I'm just applying water to kind of rinse any of the soap and or dirt out. All of this is just a back and forth. We do these processes sometimes, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. Sometimes we only need to do it once. So for this application of scrubbing, I'm not actually adding any more soap. And the reason I'm doing that is right now I'm trying to figure out my baseline. I don't do this with every rug, but this is a really dark rug, so it's going to be hard to tell if I'm getting any dye to come out or if it's soil. So I'm running the machine over with whatever soap's in the rug just from the last cleaning, the last soap application, and mostly water. Now, most of the stuff coming out of this is soil. There may be a little bit of dye. I don't think anything I'm really concerned with. I do have a product in here that's going to prevent the dye from sticking to any of the loose or the open dye sites in the wool. So I'm not really concerned with that. Now I'm looking at this and I see this is all just soil. There's no real dye coming out of this. So whatever dye did come out, if there was any, it was probably just a fluke. But I can definitely tell that this is all soil, just oily soils, dry soils that have become wet soils now. No major concerns. As I flip this rug, this can be really hard because these rugs can get really, really heavy when they're wet. And this rug has a really good knot type on it, but it allows the rug to be kind of flimsy and loose, which it makes the face of the rug really soft, but it makes it hard to stay in place. So as I flip it, it moves a lot. Even when I run the squeegee over it like this, it'll bunch up on me. Makes it a little difficult sometimes to do the squeegee part or to flip the rug. But again, here you can see this is all soil coming out of the rug, which is really the whole purpose. Well, not the whole purpose, but one of the main purposes to have rugs or carpeting in your house is to hold and trap soil. It's a big filter. If you don't have carpet or rugs in your house, then all of the dry soil, the dust, the dander, it all becomes airborne and then you breathe it. So you want to have some type of fiber in your house, some carpeting, some rugs to help trap that stuff. Vacuum regularly, have them cleaned regularly, and that way you're not allowing the carpet fibers to get full and then spill out into the rest of your house. So usually when I scrub the backside of these rugs, usually only doing it once, sometimes 2 times, And the reason is there's a lot of soil that gets impacted in the back in the knots, but it just does that. It gets impacted in the soil into the knots, and there's not a lot of fiber there. So I don't need to do a lot, like an extensive amount of work. Usually just one scrub. I'll hit it with the pressure washer and then squeegee it and flip it back over, which is exactly what I'm doing here. I also like to power wash the backside of the fringe, and there's a little spot between the rug and the fringe called the kilum, and that's not on every rug, but it is on this rug. And there will be an accumulation of soil, particularly on the back, either from touching the ground or the way that the soil settles from the surface. So power washing the backside of the fringe is really important. I also usually do the top side of the fringe as well, but you got to be really careful with this because it's made of cotton, and cotton can get fragile or frail over time. So I got to be really careful not to break that off when I'm doing this. It's really a technique that takes a lot of time to figure out and to master. I've seen a lot of guys go in there with pressure washers and just totally rip apart the fringe, or even, rip holes through rugs. It can be really dangerous, but I love the pressure washer. This is from a company called Giraffe Tools. And this particular pressure washer has a really good volume of water to pressure ratio. Sometimes you can get power washers that have really high pressure and low volume of water, or really high volume of water with low pressure. This has a really good mixture of the two of them. Plus, it's got a retractable spool, which I absolutely love. It makes for really easy storage. And when I'm done with it, I just pull on the hose and it winds it back up for me. So when I'm using pressure washers on rugs like this, and I don't do it on every rug, there's various different reasons that I don't do it on every rug, but I can be more aggressive on the back side of a rug where the knots are versus the top side of the rug where the fibers are. The fibers are going to be a little bit more fragile than the knots on the back side will be. So that's it for cleaning the backside. I'm going to do one final squeegee, and you're going to really see a lot of the gunk that I broke up. When I do that, when I power wash the backside, it does force a lot of that soil to the front. So I do need to flip it over and clean the front again, which is what I'm going to do here. And you get to kind of watch me struggle with this a little bit because, again, how the knots are designed that makes the rug loose, not in a bad way. It's a very well constructed rug, but the knots are constructed so that it's very soft. It just makes it a little finicky to work with, and it bunches up very easily. So here's the first squeegee as I move it over onto the other side, onto the top side, and I haven't added any water or flushed it out. This is just me squeegeeing it first thing when I flip it over. And you can see me getting caught a little bit there. That's from the rug kind of bunching up on me. And so as opposed to taking the power washer on the top side of this rug, I'm getting a really high volume of water on the fringe. So it kind of acts the same way, but it's less pressure, higher volume of water, because the top side is going to be, like I said, a little bit more fragile than the back side where the knots are. And I didn't get all the fringe to lay properly when I flipped the rug, so some of it's kind of tucked under. That's where you see me kind of fidgeting around with the edge of the corner there, trying to pull the fringe back out. So I'm doing this squeegee, and then I'm going to do one more scrub with the machine and soap after this, just to get that last little bit of loose soil that I had not gotten in the previous cleanings, especially after I'd flipped it over. Some of that stuff that gets embedded in the foundation as I'm cleaning the back will come through to the top side, and I got to make sure that I get all that stuff out. So here's the last final rinse down with soap, scrub, and squeegee before I put it into the centrifuge. And when I put it in the centrifuge, that's where we do two things. We can do a final rinse with fresh water and dry the rug as much as we possibly can. And the way that this machine works is it's just the same thing as the spin cycle on your washing machine. When your washing machine goes into the spin cycle, it dumps a bunch of water in it, and as the machine spins, it forces water from the inside to the outside and then gets drained. And after I'm done running water through it, then I just let the machine spin and it'll spin the last bit of water out. And I'm just about to get ready to roll the rug and load it up into that machine. But first I got to do this last little rinse of fresh water, and then I'm going to run the squeegee over it. Now you can see there is some soil that's still left in the rug as I'm squeegeeing it, and that's okay. It's unlikely that I'm going to get 100% of the soil out when I do the cleanings on the wash floor. Sometimes I do, usually I don't. That's okay. The point of it being on the wash floor is that I emulsify or loosen all the soils up in the rug. And then when I put it in the centrifuge, I can run fresh water through it and it'll kind of rinse all that last little bit out, which is what I'm going to do here. I'm not going to show you that process because it's long and you don't really get anything out of it because it's just in there spinning. But here's the final product, and I think it looks beautiful. Let me know what you think.